In this video I want to demonstrate how to do an exploded assembly, and we do that in the Inventor presentation environment. So I have an assembly here, and this assembly is a flashlight, as we can see, and this head moves up and down, and I'm going to put that back where it was originally, and then I'm going to start a new assembly. And it asked me for the file name that I want to use, so I'm going to use this flashlight assembly. And I'm going to put my view style on realistic. And so now we're in the presentation environment. And notice down here we have a storyboard. The storyboard is going to keep track of everything that we do in the order that we do it in. Now if we want to change the order of something that we do, we can do that. It's a good idea to manually sketch out a storyboard of what you want to happen and when you want that to happen before you come in here and start creating your exploded assembly. Now you can move things around on the storyboard that Inventor creates, but it just works out the best in most cases if you go ahead and create a manual, just sketch out a quick manual storyboard of key frames, key things that you want to happen when you want those to happen. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak components, and so I'm going to select this tweak component, and I'm going to I want to move this entire head, which is it is the head assembly. So I'm going to set that as component, so it'll select that in one selection, and so I've got that head selected. Now it's important that I set up the coordinate system that I want to use. See, right now this arrow is going straight up, this arrow is going straight out, and it isn't really in line with that head. So I'm going to redefine my coordinate system, and I want it to pivot around this circle right there, so I'll select that circle, and then I'm going to put this, I have a choice of doing a move or rotate. I'm going to put it on rotate, and I have it set to not create any trails right now. Later on I'll create some trails, and then I can either type in some values, or I can just manually drag. And so I'm going to drag this one down a little bit, say like that, and I'm going to accept that tweak, and then I will actually, you know what, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo that, and I'm just going to go up and then I'll go back down. Alright, so let's do that again. So I'll put it on component, I will select that assembly, I will change the coordinate system so that it rotates around that circle, and I'll do rotate, and then I'm going to I've got it on no trail, and I'm going to rotate this head going up, and I've gone up 60 degrees, so I'll go ahead and accept that. Right, I want to rotate back where I started, so I'll do tweak component again, and I will select my component, I'll select that head, change my center of rotation, I will put it on rotate, and then I will drag this back down, and I'll put that back on 60 degrees to go back where I started. Alright, now as we're going along, we should test out these tweaks that we put in here. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and you see that it goes up to 60 degrees, and then it comes back down to 60 degrees. And all of that is preserved on our storyboard. Now if I drag this up, we see that here was that rotation up, and then here was the rotation back down. And if we want to edit anything, the amount of time that takes to do that, or to edit the angle to tweak, we can just right click and edit whatever we need to do. And we'll see some more things that we can do here in a few minutes. Alright, now I would like to do a turntable rotation of this entire assembly. Now when I tried this earlier, I got an error, so let's try it again and see if it will work. So I'm going to do tweak components, and I'm going to select component, and I'll select the first sub-assembly within the assembly. I'll hold down the shift key and I will select the rest of the parts and sub-assembly. So I have everything selected. I'll put it on rotate, and then I want to rotate around this axis. And so I'm just going to drag a little bit, and I will say OK to that. And it worked. Earlier I had some trouble, and I don't know what I did wrong. So since it worked, I'm going to now edit that tweak, and there's a folder over here that lists the tweaks that I've created. And the easiest way to do this one will be to right click on this, and I'll do edit tweak, and then I'll put it, I want to go a full 360 degrees, and I'll accept that. Okay, now let me drag this back down here, and then I'm going to play this and see how it goes. So the head moves up and it moves back down. And then we get our turntable rotation of 360 degrees. Now I want to capture the position of this at some point, and with the camera. And so I'm going to come up here to capture camera. Now I've got to decide where I want this camera, and actually we can move it on the timeline. So I'm just going to click on capture camera. Okay, now if I look on the storyboard timeline, I see that I've got a camera capture that's on this last tweak. I'm going to drag that and change that length of that camera capture back to the beginning. Now and if I want to edit that time, I can select on it and edit the time, and I'm going to put that right at 0. So that's where it's going to be when I start, and that's where it's going to be at the end of 15 seconds. Okay, so now, so if I zoom in or out, when I start playing this thing, it's going to go to where that camera position was captured before it does anything else. And so let me go ahead, I'll make sure I've rewound. So I rewind to the beginning, it goes to that position where the camera was captured, and then I'll play it, and so I get the motion of the head moving up and it moving it back down. Okay. And then it went back to the beginning. Alright, I'm going to put this back over here to the end where I left off at. And so I'm just click here to forward to the end, or go reverse to the beginning. I can go forward or back. On the next step, I want to move the entire head assembly up. And before I do that, I'm going to zoom in on that head assembly. Okay, so I'll zoom in about like that, and you have to experiment a little bit to get it what you want. I know that I'm going to move this piece out. There's a pin similar to this, a pivot pin on the other side that I'm going to move out. I'm going to move this head up, and then I'm going to explode those parts going down this way. Alright, I think I have it where I want it, so I'm going to capture that camera position. And I'm not sure that it actually captured it, so I'll go down here and let me move this and capture. I'll capture that again. Okay, so I'll capture that camera position. Alright, now I like to double check that and make sure that I got it captured. So there is the capture of that camera position, and it actually is going to move. So as it plays, so the turntable rotation goes around. And if I want to change then, when that camera action begins and stops, I can drag the start and stop times of my camera action down here on the timeline. Alright, let's go to the end. Alright, I'm going to tweak, and I will have it on part, and this time I'm going to create a trail. So I'm going to tell it a single trail, and I'm going to then drag this. I'll select that pin, and I might want to make sure that the coordinates on this one, it doesn't really matter so much, but I usually set the coordinate system exactly where I want. So I'm going to drag that pin out, and then I'm going to drag it up. And I could do those as two separate tweaks, or I could do those as one tweak, and I have to go ahead and accept that. And then if we want to see how that plays, and we'll go back and see it play here in a minute. Let's do the other side. And so I'm going to do a tweak of the other side, and I'll get that component, and I'm going to move that out, and we'll come around and move that up, like that, and I'll accept that. Alright, let's see what we have so far. Okay, so I'm going to rewind back to the beginning. Okay, so we see the head move up. And it moves back down. We get rotation. And then that pivot pin comes out on this side, out and up. And on the other side, it goes out and up. Now that occurred a lot later than I would like for it to occur, so I'm going to hit the pause button here, and let's take a look at the timeline and see if we can change when those occur. And I want to actually move these down here, so I'm going to move this. And this is that pivot pin. It moves into. So I'm going to drag that to about there. I want that to occur right in here. And then I'm going to drag this one. Let's put this right here and right there. Alright, we will test it out again, and and see what happens. I'm not going to rewind all the way back to the beginning. I will only go a portion of the way. Alright, so I'll play it. And the pin is coming out and going up, and then the other one is coming out on the back side and it's going up. And again, we can control how fast that occurs by shortening this time period in which that action occurs. I'm going to go to the end where I left off, and I'll do my next tweak. I think that I went a little bit higher than I would like to go on this tweak, so I'm going to edit that tweak, and I'm going to change that distance, let's say, to 35. Okay, so I didn't come up quite as high. Alright, now I want to move the entire head subassembly up. And so I'll do a tweak component. I will put it on component. And I only want to, let's go ahead and select that component. I'm going to undo that because I made a mistake, so I'll do that again. I'll tweak component, I'll put it on component. I'll try to get this over here. And for this one I want to set the location, and I'm going to create just a single, this is real important for this one because there are a bunch of parts. I'm going to create just a single trail for all of those parts, or a single tweak. So I'm going to then do a reset the coordinate system, and I'm going to select this circle here, and then that sets this perpendicular to that face, and then I will drag this up and I might have to tweak that pivot pin behind there because I've hidden it. But I'm good with that, so I'll say OK to that tweak. And then I'll do a tweak again. And this time I'm going to select some components and some parts. I'll probably select some individual parts, so I'm going to change the coordinate system. And let's move this out of the way. And then I'm going to come over here, and under the head assembly, I'm going to select the bulb assembly. I will hold down the control key, and I'm going to select the lens and the lens cap. Now it helps if you're familiar with the, if you put the assembly together yourself and you're familiar with what parts you have in the assembly. I don't want to move this head. There's some pieces inside that I don't want to move as well. But everything here on the front, and then some of the parts that are inside, I want to move. Alright, so I'm going to move those out. That looks good, and I will accept that distance. Right, then I'm going to do tweak component again, and this time I'm going to select. And you can either select the parts on the screen. I'll hold down the control screen and I'll get that part, or you can do it over in the browser. And I need to get the I'm missing one of the parts that I want. Let me expand this bulb assembly. I want to get the reflector. Okay. So I don't remember if I reset my coordinate system, so I'll make sure that and I see that I didn't reset my coordinate system, so I need to do that. and I have the parts that I want to move selected, and so I will move those parts. Say about right there. I'll accept that. Hey, if we want to test out some of the motions that we've just made, we can drag the time slider back and play it. And so here we see that pivot pin going up, and then the head going up. Now I'll change the camera position here in a few minutes. Right, then I see the lens cap and reflector come off, and then it got to the end of it. So let's set this back to the end. Alright, then I'll continue on with my tweaks. And so I'll do a new tweak, and then I'm going to select the lens and the lens cap. I will set my coordinate system. I will drag those out. We'll say about right there. I will accept that, and then I'm going to move the last part off. I'll do tweak. I'll select the lens cap. I will set my coordinate system. And then I want to try something on the coordinate system, because I want to try something special, and I had some trouble earlier. Let's set the coordinate system. I'm going to select back here on this circle. Back. In fact, I'm going to set it all the way back here on this one. And you'll see why in a minute. Hopefully this will all work. Alright, then I'm going to move that piece out about like that. And at the same time that it's moving, I want to do a rotation. So I'm going to select rotate, and then I'm going to drag this around and rotate that, and I'm going to put in minus 360. I'm not sure whether it's going to be plus or minus, but we'll check it out and we'll make a decision. We can always edit it. Alright, so I'll say OK to that. Right, I'm going to run my slider back a little bit, and I can't quite see where the time is, so I'm going to hit the minus here, and so I'm going to run this back just a little ways, and then I'll play it, and so we can see the reflector and the lens cap exploding or separating out. Okay, so then the lens cap and the lens. Now watch the lens cap. Okay, right at the end it rotates. Now I would like for this to rotate at the same time that it's coming off. In fact, actually I would like for it to rotate all the way back to here. Now I have some problems, so I'm going to have to be careful on this. In fact, I'm going to save this right now in case I need to get back to where I was. And so let me go ahead and I'll save this. I've already done this once, so I'm going to call this one revision 1. In fact, I should have saved before I even had done anything. Alright, now let's expand this timeline, and I will find the lens cap, and I'm going to, so it comes out, and then here it's rotating. Okay, so it's moving out, and then here it's rotating. Right, I'm going to I double clicked on that motion, and notice it now dropped that down to second line. Now I want this thing to rotate the same time that it's moving. So I'm going to drag this rotation, and I'm going to have it rotate and move at the same time. Okay, so this is the translation or the linear motion, and then this is the rotation. Alright, let's see if it works. So I'm going to drag this back, and I will play it. And let me zoom in on so you can see it. When it gets to this point right here, it should move off of the lens and rotate at the same time. There we go. Okay, you see that rotation. Alright, now I would really like for it to start, because it's rotating when it comes off clear back here. And I'm going to save it now because I had some trouble with this earlier, so let's go ahead and save it. And probably what I should do is do this step by step rather than trying to do it all at once, to bring it back with one step and then the next step and the next step. But I'm going to well, I'm not going to get brave. Let's bring it back to here. Okay, and so I'll just start this over into this area, and let's see what we got here. Let me bring this down a little bit more so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so I'll go ahead and play it. Okay, so it's rotating and it's moving with the lens, and it should continue to rotate and come off of the lens cap. Actually, when I think about that, we only needed it to rotate back here. But in any case, let's get brave now. So I'm going to try to have this thing rotating right from the beginning of its, actually, I'll just take it just a little bit, right from the beginning of that motion. Alright, let's drag this back. Okay, so now it's moving up, and we will play it. And this time I want it to rotate as soon as it starts to come off here. It is. It's rotating. Now really the rotation could all occur back in here. So maybe I'll change that. I'll move that rotation back in there. So let me move this. I'm going to tell it to rotate in this portion. Well, let's do it like that far. Okay, let's see how this goes. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so the head moves up. Well, you see what happened there. I messed it up at some point, and that's what I was trying to avoid doing. So I've had some problems. Let's just see if I can undo all of that and get back to where it was working okay. So I think I had everything working okay. Let's see if that works. That's why I saved it right before that, in case I have to just close the file and reopen it. Alright, so the head moves up, and everything's rotating, and it's coming out. So I think I'll leave it like that. Now I can experiment some more and try to figure out why it was losing that axis of rotation, but I think I will just leave it well enough alone. Alright. The next thing I want to do is to explode the bulb assembly, and so I will select a tweak component, and I'll select the bulb. I will tell it to only trail the single part of the bulb, and I will locate my my coordinate system, and let's tweak this out, and I'll tweak it up. I'll say okay to that one. Then I want to move this cap back, so I'll do another tweak, and I will I'll set the coordinate system. Now I want to move these electrodes out of the head, and so I'll do tweak, and I'm going to select this electrode, and I'm going to set the coordinate system on this face. I will then move this out, and then I have to move it this direction. So I needed to move it in this direction far enough that this tab would clear the part, and now I can move it forward, and I want to move it forward far enough that this clears the head, and then I will move it up, and I'll accept that one. I'll do the same thing for this one. So I'll do tweak, I'll select that part, I will set my coordinate system, I'll move it forward, move it into the head, back into the head, then move it forward more, get it clear of the head, and then I can move it up, or in this case I think I'll move this one over here. I'll accept that one. Now I want to work on the handle down in here, so the first thing I need to do is remove the two screws. So I'll do the tweak component, and I'll hold down the control key, get both of those self-tapping screws. I'm not really too concerned about the location of the coordinate system on these, so I'll just drag those out, and I want to give myself enough room that I can get some other parts in this area, and I can always go back and change that distance later on. Now I wanted both of those tweaked, and so I might be able to add a trail to the second one, but I'm not sure. It's easy enough on this one just to undo that. And so my fasteners are back inside. I'll do tweak component, and I'll get both of these self-tapping screws. I'll have to hold down the control key to get them both. And then I want to make sure that I put a trail on both of those components. So that's what I forgot the last time. So now I'll drag that out, and we see that it's putting a trail on both of these. Okay, now I will pull out this handle, and so I'll do tweak component. I'm going to put this back on single part, and I'll tweak this handle out to here. I'll accept that. Then I want to disassemble some of these other parts in here. I need to move this part up off of this wheel, and then I can move it out. And I'm thinking that maybe I didn't move this piece up enough. This screw goes through this wheel. Let's move the wheel down, and we'll move it out of the way. Okay, so I'll tweak components, and I will select component, and I'm going to get this entire friction wheel subassembly, and I'm going to move it down and then move it out, and let's move it back here like this. Okay, I'll accept that one, and then I will move this component. So I'll do tweak, put it's on part. I'll select this part, and I'm going to move that part. Alright, now I will move this part, and I need to rotate it first a little bit so that it can clear the handle. So I'll do rotate, and I'm going to rotate it back a little bit. And I forgot to set the location of the rotation, so I'm going to cancel that, and I'll do it again. So I'll do tweak components, and I'll select that component and put it on rotate, but I need to make sure that I put my coordinate system so that it rotates about the pin that it's connected to, or that it rotates about. And now I will rotate this back. Okay, and now I'll go to move, and then I'll move. And I accidentally got hold of this plane instead of the arrow, so when I get hold of that plane I can move it anywhere, and I don't like that, so I'll cancel that, and I'm going to undo back to that. I'll just leave it on the rotate. I'll do tweak, and I will, because that rotation has to occur before the motion out, and I've got it, and now I will move that straight out. Let me decide how far I want to move this. And I'll accept that. Alright, that's as far as I'm going to explode this. If I want to have create a drawing view of this exploded assembly, I need to create a snapshot of this exploded assembly view. So let me put this at an orientation where I can see all of my parts. I'll see if I put it here, that part is hidden, and so I want to orient this for the best possible view so that when I put my balloons on it in the assembly, I can see all of the parts. And I think I like that, so I'm going to then do a snapshot of that view, and so I can use this snapshot when I create my drawing views. I want to go back to the beginning and test everything out. So I'm going to rewind back to the beginning. Now I'm going to be watching particularly the camera actions on the replay. So I'll go ahead and play it. I think I would prefer that it did the turntable before it zooms in. So I think I may make a change on that. I don't know. Maybe I'll just leave it the way that one the way it is. And so that pivot pin comes out. There's a pivot pin on the back side that comes out. I might need to zoom out a little bit because see, I'm going off the screen. I don't really like that, so I need to change that camera position so that I don't go off the screen. Okay, now there is something occurring off the screen. We can't see that, so I need to set a camera action so that we can clearly see that. And the fasteners come out, and again, part of that's occurring off the screen, so I'll have to set a camera action to zoom out. And notice you could zoom in and zoom out to clearly show the motion that you want to see. Alright, so I need to set some camera actions. I've got my motions set up for the exploded assembly, but I want to recapture some of the camera positions. And so I think what I'm going to do is first I'm going to just delete the cameras that we have already had. So I'm going to delete that camera position, and I'll delete this one, and I'm going to put them back in. Sometimes you can edit what you have, but in this case I didn't really have a good position with those cameras, so I'm going to put those in again. I want to create a couple of screen captures for this. And so I'm going to do some snapshots. And before I do the snapshots, I'm going to maximize my screen. I could completely turn this off, the storyboard, but I think I'll just bring it down here real small. I'll bring this over, and I'll bring this over. And again, I could hide all of this stuff. I think I will hide these two. Now, I don't recall whether these show up in the recording or not, but I'm going to turn them off just in case. And so I'll go to the View tab, and it's good to know how to do these anyway. So I'm going to turn off the View Cube and the navigation bar. I could turn off, in fact, let's turn off that browser over here as well. So I'll turn off the browser, and I could turn off the storyboard and make this cleaner. Now I'll also want to reduce some of this area up here. I'm going to end up creating 2 snapshots, and then I'm going to create some camera positions. So the camera position is here, snapshot is over here under workshop. Now I'm going to click on this black arrow, and that reduces the size some. I'm going to click on it again, and now I just get some menu titles up here. Alright, I'm going to set this up at a orientation that I am pleased with. And then I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go to workshop and tell it to do a snapshot. So it just did a still image that we'll look at here in a minute. And then I'm going to go to the end of the exploded assembly, and I'm going to orient it how I want it. And the key to this is I want to make sure all my components are visible, clearly visible, particularly this pivot pin back here. And this will be the exploded assembly that I put into my drawing, and I'll put balloons on these parts, and I want the parts oriented as best I can. It will when I put the balloons on there, it'll be clear what parts are what. And I'm looking at this one right here. I might have moved that out a little bit further, and then to get it out here into this white space, and then maybe it would show up better. I'm just trying to decide whether I want to do that. I clicked on that part, and I did edit tweak, and I'm just trying to see what I can do with that. Okay, so here's my distance, and I will bring that out here a little bit further. So I right clicked on that to select that, and then I was able to change that distance, get it out here better. On this one, I'm not sure whether I want to move that out a little bit or not. Actually, I didn't realize this, but I could just click right there on the trail and select that. Now I'm a little bit worried when I see this thing come up that I might have messed something up. So I'm going to rewind and play this thing, make sure that, remember when this thing spun off of there, that there could have been a problem. I want to make sure that it doesn't do that. Let's just speed this up a little bit. I'm just going to drag this across here. There's the turntable, and so I did see, when I see that, I see I did mess that up. I haven't found an easy way of fixing that. So save off and save off and save off, and the next thing you do might be something wrong. I'm trying to find a good orientation for my exploded assembly in the 2D drawing. So I'm going to rotate it around until I get it where I can see all of the components clearly. In particular, I'm concerned about this component right here, the pivot pin, that I don't want it to be hidden back here. And then I'm a little bit concerned about this part. It might be better if I brought it out here into white space a little bit further. If I click on this grip on the end of the trail, I can drag that anchor out here a little bit further, and so now it's in this white space. I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to move this in a little bit, and then I'm going to select the screw. I'll move it in a little bit, and watch, because that was actually, both of these were moved in the same tweak. I think I like that. I might want to move this one up a little bit, and I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to leave it where it's at, but I'm going to show you a little problem we have to deal with. Actually, I'm going to save it before I do that. Save often, save often, save often, save often. Sometimes it's easier to just go back to the last save state than it is to fix something. All right, I'm going to select this tweak, and I'm going to drag this a little bit, and notice this circle came up. If I played this thing now, all of these parts are going to rotate incorrectly. Let me just, actually, I'll just drag this across here. So, now watch, see how it's rotating out here. And so I'm going to undo back to before that circle appeared. Okay, so now I should be okay. And I saved it right before I did that, just to be sure. But you know, I want that rotation. I want all those to rotate coming out here in a straight line. Now I don't like those cameras, so I'm going to put my, actually before we do that, I want to get this exploded assembly. So let me orient that in an ideal position. And I kind of like that, so I'm going to create a snapshot at that location. Okay, so now I have that exploded assembly, and if I want to look at those two snapshots, if I double click on them, so this is the exploded assembly snapshot, and then this is my everything combined together. Now to get out of that, I have to click here to exit out of the finish view and get back here. Now let's see what we have. So I've got these, you know, the whole purpose of making all the screen smaller and so forth was to get these two snapshots that I wanted. Now I'm going to start to work on the camera positions, and first of all, let's make sure that I did delete the previous camera position. So I need to delete this camera position. And I went through this a couple of times, and I might have deleted them earlier, and I had to put them back in here, or I had to get rid of them again. I started over 2 or 3 times. Save often, save often, save often. Alright, I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I think that right at the beginning I want something like this, and I might move it over here to the middle. I'm going to drag this down a little bit more, and I'm going to zoom in on this. If you don't have a 3D Space Navigator, 3D Connection Space Navigator, I highly recommend that you get one. Alright, so I want to create a camera, capture that position. And I'm going to check on my timeline, and I see that it didn't actually put a camera here, and it seems like you've got to be a little past go or start this thing, so I'm going to, and then stop it, and I'll try doing that camera again, and everything moved down, so there should be a camera. I see the camera in here. Now where is it at though? It's actually at the over at the 0 position. And then I'm going to move these up and down, and then I rotate around, and then I move this pin out. And I think before I move that pin out, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but I want to shorten that time that that pin takes too. So I'm going to double click on that and shorten the amount of time that the pin takes to come out. And so let's check that again. So there the pin comes out, and then it goes up. And the other side coming out, and it's go up. Now I might want these two pins to translate at the same time. Now I'm a little bit concerned about this, because remember that circle that showed up here? I'm a little bit concerned about moving this one, because it seemed when we moved it, in fact I think I'll just wait to the end to adjust that. Looks like it was causing some problems. Alright, but I may want to zoom in then when I'm doing before I move those. So let's get this back right here when this one is just starting to come out. In fact, I think I'll zoom in as it's coming out. So it's started out, and then let me get to a good screen position. And so I'm going to move it over, because remember all of this stuff's going to come out this way. I'm going to move it over to I need that to come up. So let's move it down here like this. Alright, I like that, so I'm going to capture that camera. And if I look on my timeline now, I have this camera. Now I want that action to, okay, so it's at the end of the turntable rotation, it's zoomed in. So let's play that and see what it looks like. Now I might want to decrease the amount of time it takes for that head to go up and to go back down. So the head pivots up. Now and then pivot back down. We get the turntable rotation. And I'm going to stop this thing and actually let me go back here, because I actually moved it manually. So let's go back here. I'm a little bit concerned. See, the head is going up off of the screen there, so I might need to delete that original camera. But anyways, let's continue on. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. Okay, so we get the turntable rotation. And again, I think I could have been out a little bit further, and I don't like that, so I'm going to delete it. But anyway, that camera I think is okay. Let's go on and see how it works out. And I've messed that up again. So okay, I'm at my full exploded view, and I want to be careful you know how I set these cameras up. So I'm going to now rewind back to the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and play the animation to a certain location, and then I'll stop. I'm going to stop it when that head comes up. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to back off a little bit and maybe drag this. I want to get right in there, and I'm going to then create a camera at that location. I might have hit that twice. Let me double check on that. Okay, so now I'm actually I'm going to zoom. I want to zoom in before so there's my turntable rotation, and I want to zoom in at that location. So I'm going to drag this camera to about right there. And so we do the turntable rotation, and then it's zooming in the wrong way. It's actually, okay, so I don't like that. Let me delete that and put it in again. I want to turn off the hidden edges as well, so let's go to View, and now I'll create my camera, and so let's test this and see what happens. So it does the rotation, and then it zooms in, but I want it to zoom in before it does all of that. So I'm going to drag that earlier. So it does the rotation. That pin starts to come out, and then it zooms in. So I want that to occur a little bit earlier. So there's my rotation. The pin is starting to come out. That's okay. So it does a rotation. It starts to zoom in, and the pin is coming out. And so it goes up. The head goes up, and now those parts start to come out. And I want to give some room to that. So let's go ahead and I will continue out until that has done the full expansion. And I want to put that in as a camera action. Actually, this piece has to come out and up, come out and over. It looks like it'll fit. Well, let's go a little bit further and make sure. Okay, so it does. So I'm going to create that camera action. Alright, and then it's down here someplace. As I think it is. And let me undo that back a step. Okay, so now I'll create the camera again. Alright, now I'm going to zoom right after that previous. So let's test this. Actually, see, I need that to be earlier. I need this camera to be all the way back to the beginning. Alright, so there's our initial position. No, it's starting to zoom in, so I need to add another camera in there. So let me stop this. I will bring this camera back into here someplace. And I'll add another camera. Actually, I keep saying I'll add another camera. What I'm doing is using a single camera, and I'm adding multiple positions, camera positions. You have to test this out, and I added another position. It is a little bit too high. I don't like that. I will stop that. And let me, that was a little bit too high. I wanted to move this down some. And I'm going to capture that camera again. And then I want it to stay in that position from the beginning until the end, or till the end of the turntable. Alright, so I'll rewind. So it's in that position. And I feel like I'm still a little bit too high because I'm afraid that head's going to hit up there. Actually, let's okay, so that looked good. I have my turntable. I zoom in on this portion. Okay, now these are starting to move out, so I need to, the screws are starting to move out, so I need to get a new camera position. Alright, so I'll play that. So this electrode is coming out. And I didn't quite zoom out far enough. So I'm going to back this up a little bit. There are the screws, the rest of the way out. Create that camera position. check it. And now I want that last camera position to be different. So I'm going to go to, actually that was the end, this was the beginning, that was the end. Let's start it from the beginning now and see what we have. So the head moves up. I'm going to want to decrease that time. The head moves up. The head moves back down. My turntable rotation. I zoom in on the head. The head moves up. The pieces separate from the bulb assembly. The electrodes move out of the head. And it goes back to the beginning, so I like it. I'm going to publish my video, so I'll select publish, and video. I have a choice of what storyboard. I'm going to leave it on the current storyboard. If I had more storyboard, current document window size. Now this is one you might want to make sure you set up to a standard size before you start. And I'll call this exploded flashlight. I'm going to call this revision 1, and I've put my location where I want that, and I can do this as an AVI file or a Windows Movie file. I'll do an AVI file. I'll say OK, and then I get a choice of compression codecs. I'm going to leave it on this full frames uncompressed. Now this will give me the largest file size, but I might want to do this one first and then check some of the others. Now it could take some time to do this, so you want to set up your publishing at a time when you can walk away from the computer and go do something else. I've created my camera views now. I have my snapshots over here, and here's my beginning point and my ending point with the exploded assembly. And so now I want to publish this presentation, and so I'm going to go to publish, and I'll publish the video. and I'm going to publish this as a Windows movie file. And let me call this, I'm going to call this Exploded Flashlight. And I've already done this before, so I'm going to call it revision number 2, and I'll save that Windows movie file then.